All right, greetings everybody, and welcome back to the Ashes of Creation Community Podcast, episode 16. This is the podcast where we take a closer look at the community around Ashes of Creation and the community members. Today's community members are Mjolnir and Necro. How are you doing, guys?
What's going on?
Hello.
All right. First up, I want to thank Necro especially because it's really early and he doesn't have a lot of sleep. So thanks for joining us, Necro, man. It's awesome.
He's a legend.
That's fine.
All right, let's jump right into it. First question, I'm gonna go with Mjolnir first. How long have you been involved with the community? And yeah.
Me personally, I've been around the Discord probably a month and a half after its initial start by Cry, before he had given it to the Ashes team.
All right.
Since that point, I've been here on and off. I've done a couple, breaks because of school, this, that, and the other, but I've always been around. I have a feeling that most people should, if they're in the Discord, they should have talked to me at least once or twice. So,
All right. What about you, Necro? How long have you been part of the community?
I've been part of the community since early in the Kickstarter, but I haven't been in the Discord as long. I actually didn't come in the Discord straight away.
All right. So let's jump right to the first real topic. All right. So the first topic of tonight's podcast is travel times. We know that in Ashes of Creation there's going to be limited fast travel, and the fast travel that is going to be in the game is going to be bound to one of the nodes. I think the scientific node, was it? And
Yeah.
the rest of the game doesn't have any fast travel. So in other MMORPGs that don't have fast travel, most of them have something called like auto travel, whatever, where you just say, I want to go to point A and I'm in point B. I want to go the fastest route, so just take me there. So, do you guys? What's your opinion on like no fast travel, Necro? What do you think? What's your opinion?
I'm actually a fan of it because I like the idea that you can enjoy the world again. In all the games that when you get like flight and fast travel, it tends to take away, like it makes the demand for like immediate, I want it now, rather than the long travel and enjoying yourself with your friends.
All right. I mean, I personally, like, my opinion on the whole thing is, the faster you can travel from one point to another, the smaller the world seems. Does that make sense?
Yes.
yep.
All right, Molyneux, what do you think? What's your opinion on fast travel?
This is a fun one for me. As somebody who played vanilla WoW since its release, right? I mean, you take a look at the game now, and you take a look at what it was then, and the use of flying mounts and 280, 310 speed, and flying in the both continents rather than flying in Outland, stuff like that. I agree. It makes the world feel a lot smaller, and I've personally taken part of a couple projects to, revitalize that feeling within that game because, like you said, it takes away. There's no really immersion. You don't get to see all the spots or different ecosystems within the game because you're just flying straight past it. Yeah, I can see how people would like it, especially for like big wars. Something negative happens, you want to respond quickly, but at the same time, you, especially like my group, we like PvP. So if something were to pop off, I mean, we would be with our group anyways. So it's not like we have to run off real quick,
Alright.
and it'd take forever to get there. So for me, I don't really mind the long travel times. I don't like autopathing either, but it is what it is.
Alright, let me ask you this. And I want to hear Necro's opinion on that, because Necro is one of the few community members that have a lot of knowledge when it comes to game development, because he himself works in the industry, or worked in the industry. We know that one of the key selling points for Ashes of Creation is that the world is like there's change in the world. Nothing is static. So from a design perspective, would you personally put in something like, I don't know, like fast travel or auto travel when you are designing a world where there's always something new to discover because of the change that's happening? What's your opinion on that, Necro?
Actually, wouldn't do that. The way we're hoping that it would work with this one too is because the world evolves. If you go through an area and then the node evolves and then you go through the area again, there might be a completely different event that you missed the first time. If you had fast travel, you'd never know that was there. There are parts of that in other games, especially like WoW was a good example, where they're slowly pulling back away from that. They tried to eliminate flying from the game.
Yeah.
And the instant queue system in the higher ranked dungeons says you have to actually go to the dungeon again. You can't just queue from wherever you are and pop into a dungeon. It takes away the scope of wonder from the world and just enjoying it in that way.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Mjolnir, you have anything like? I think we pretty much said it, right? Or do you guys got anything to add?
The other thing too is that would also bring back into the game too the way that they're looking at doing the way to put it, the PvP in the world.
Yeah.
Where it will just naturally happen. If you had quick travel, that wouldn't happen. You wouldn't run into a caravan on the way through, or people doing some farming.
That's true. Yeah.
And those little, and to double down on what you said before about the quick travel, a group of people coming to a PvP fight. It's the little skirmishes that happen at first that build into a big guild fight that used to be the good thing that we used to love about games like WoW in the early days.
Do you think, because these days, and I'm turning 30 this month in a couple of days, and I'm starting to feel old. Do you think with the new generation of gamers that are already getting used to getting everything and not having to really like do anything to get something, do you think the design idea of having no fast travel, because on the Discord every time the topic comes up you hear, and I don't want to call out anybody, but it's mostly like the younger people that are complaining that they actually have to go from point A to point B instead of just like auto path or fast travel to the point. Do you think it's going to hurt the game, or do you think people will actually adjust to that design choice? What do you think, Mjolnir? Mjolnir?
Hello? There we go.
Yeah,
there it is.
There we go.
So the way I look at this one is, I was never fed anything with vanilla, and then other games that I played, you take, you say BDO for example, right? How much of a grind that game is, and getting boss gear and getting your Kuranda weapon, or your dandelion. That's what it's called. It's an absolute grind, and nothing's ever really fed to you except for the fact that they make catch-up mechanics in that game now. But it can hurt community for the simple fact that, like you said, people want things fed to them, and that's the shitty part, because nobody really knows how to play an MMO anymore. Everybody just kind of wants to, like, that dungeon finder feel, I guess, nowadays. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they don't really want to go anywhere. They don't want to stand in the major city. They don't want to work for what they have. You know what I mean? And I've never played like that, especially playing vanilla WoW and playing WoW for this long. I mean, I've quit a couple of times, but
Who has
seeing the game digress into one of those Facebook games, right? Like that's what it feels like now. Especially when Warlords of Draenor came out, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I can see how it can inhibit, the growth of the game because people are like, oh, it's too hard or oh, it's too grindy. Well, no, you just have to work for it. You know what I mean? So I like it personally. I think it's great. It shows the ones that are devoted out of those that aren't. But at the same time, you can see where it would take those who want things fed to them.
I mean, it is like one of the words Steven always uses when he describes Ashes is he wants the game to be immersive. And
Right.
anything like fast travel or autopathing would take from that away. Wouldn't you agree, Oki, or what's your opinion on that?
It does. It hurts the game. In a lot of games they do that, and the instant gratification problem, it's a slippery slope. Once you do things once and people want it again and again and again, they have to give you more and more and more. And in WoW, the best example there was they've actually shortened the dungeon times because not only did people get in the dungeon, but they wanted to speed run it quicker.
Yeah.
And that's where that eventually becomes a thing where it's the norm, and that's why you've heard me say in the chat before that I say that there's now 4 ranks of player types in the game because the entitled are a new rank type that believe that everything should be given to them when they log in.
I mean, I hope.
I like how you said that.
Yeah.
The entitled.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like that. I like that. So I mean, at this point, I just hope personally that Steven, because he says he wants to make his MMO, so I hope he is really. Yeah, we have to wait and see. All right, let's jump before we get lost in that topic. Let's jump to the next one. Quests in the game. How do you guys? And I'm gonna start with Oki. I'm gonna start with Oki first. How do you think questing will mostly work? I mean, we have bits and pieces of like Steven telling us about it, but because we're based on a node, right? And in other MMORPGs, you normally quest through areas that are based on levels, and in Ashes, you're not gonna really have that because like let's say in World of Warcraft, you start in Draenor, you go to Orgrimmar, and then you go into like a level 10 to 15 in area, and then 15 to 20, yada yada yada. You're not gonna have this in Ashes. So how do you guys think, or what do you want? Like how would you like to see it working, Necro?
Well, I like the idea that they were doing with the node is how the world will evolve for giving you quests. So if you are like bound to an area where you don't want to go far and wide the level, you can stay in that area and you can farm and stuff if you don't want to go out into the world as much. Having that style too means that it's fresh all the time. You're not just going to run through the same zone over and over again.
All right. So
the other thing too is if it's natural questing, so things that will happen in the world, not just a list of things you have to do every time you come in. Like an NPC in one zone might not be there because a different node opened up.
All right.
That'll change your immersion of playing the game too.
Do you guys think? No, let's go with Molyneux first. Do you got anything to say about that? Like, what do you think? What do you think it's gonna be like?
I'm hoping. I really, really, really hope that the questing in the game, for the most part, is going to be more dynamic than we've seen before. Like go A to B, B to A, and then turn in the items that you've killed from these boars or whatever. I kind of want more than that because that's what the MMO genres kind of fallen into, is like kill quests. But at the same time, I'm not a huge PvE guy. Yeah, I'll do it because if the best weapon comes from a dungeon or a raid, I'm going to do it because I want to have that weapon in PvP. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Like we look at Cataclysm, the Vile Shadow from Heroic, right? That shit was broken for rogues, and I made sure I got a normal mode and a heroic for both trinkets, and I used it in PvP. But because we know that nodes are going to be developing. I'm hoping that with the developed nodes, more quests will come out, and those quests will make us do, different things, maybe more advanced things to help advance the node even further, or bring more resources to that area, this, that, and the other. Like I said, I'm not huge with PvE, but I'm hoping that it's going to be more dynamic than WoW, WildStar, BDO. Like, I don't like kill quests anymore.
Right.
I mean, obviously they're going to be in the game, but I don't like them.
Right. Do you guys think that at some point we are going to get like main characters, like characters that drive a story? Like in World of Warcraft, you got Thrall, Sylvanas, all those guys. And I'm not saying it's gonna be to that level, but do you think, for example, that there will be like an underlining like story that we can follow that takes us through the world? Okay, what do you think?
Usually they will, though. They have the sense of a race normally will have a figurehead. That's usually something that, like, as you said, you referenced them, most of the people who could talk in the game and are big voice acted characters are mainly the ones who are the leaders of each of the races. They give off the big quests in the world and things like that, the ones that lead into the end game things.
All right. So you think we're gonna have something like that?
Hoping that because with the game that there's no faction in that same sense, so they have to do something that has a sense of like ownership to an area. There might even be the ones where it's someone who you get in a zone when you get to a certain, like a metropolis level or a city, where it's an NPC that's a named NPC that you'll hear talk and that kind of thing, where it's something to bring everyone together, like a thing to rally behind. It's not just your guild master telling you go fight someone.
All right. So Mjolnir. Oh no, keep going. Okay, keep going.
Okay, there was only one little thing. Because that works well in PvP, but in PvE, usually there has to be that one quest person or that one thing to say, right, well, this is why you have to go do the raid.
All right. Yeah, I get that. Maybe they're gonna surprise us. All right, Mjolnir, if you could design one quest character from any of the races, what would it be?
Oh boy. It'd have to be something that would like infiltrate a military node, like send you on a wild goose chase around a military node to, watch that entire industrialization of that node fall.
All right.
Because me, as somebody who's played a rogue or the stealth class for how long I have been playing MMOs, I would want something like that to happen. Kind of like with the legendary dagger quest in Cataclysm, like how you had to do all this sneaking around to get through. I'd want something like that if I could design, a quest line. But like I said before, I'm not the biggest PvE guy. I don't really care for questing. I mean, leveling is kind of cool, but that'd probably be the farthest I went, something like that.
Yeah, here's a funny thing. I love questing. I know it's like I'm a pleb. I'm a casual. I know I'm a dirty casual. But I always loved questing in Vanilla WoW.
Come on now, you know how I feel about casuals.
I mean, it's the term is MMORPG, and I always took that RPG part really serious. So I always at least on one character, did read all the quests, do all the quests, just to get a feel for what the designers thought about when they designed the world. All right, let's jump to the next topic. Okay, apparently my mic doesn't want to work. All right, next topic is a term nobody really likes to use. It's the term endgame in MMORPGs, and that's always a big topic. And when I say endgame, I don't mean endgame. I mean more like, what are you gonna do as soon as you're done questing? Like, what are you gonna do if your character reach max level? Like, what do you think most people will do? I know Mjolnir, you're gonna probably just do PvP, crafting, right? Or is there anything else you're gonna do?
No, mostly it's going to be weapon arming crafting, PvP, large and small scale. But for me, endgame is progressive, right? If you look at anything raid wise, it has to be progressive, because if you sit there and you're stale with any content that you put out, people are going to be upset with that. They're going to start complaining there's not enough content, da 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 da. And most of those people, unfortunately, are players like me that we only do one thing in the game, or we do a couple things in the game, and that's it. And we feel like there's no content because there's no progression, right?
Yeah.
If there's an armor set that gets put out of the game, that's the armor set that you stick with for an entire 6 months, right? That doesn't feel like endgame to me. That doesn't feel like you're progressing as a character. And thinking about the MMORPG genre and watching your character progress from level 1 to max level to getting geared, and then you sit in that gear for 6 to 8 months, like, you get really stagnant. So it has to be progressive in order for people to enjoy what they're doing.
All right, Necro, what's your opinion?
It's actually pretty close. I do look at it. The people mistake endgame for like the ending of the game, the final part. Endgame usually just is the point where you see where you've hit the max level in the game, but there's still much more to do. In that case, though, there are issues where, yes, people do peter out, where they want more because it feels stagnant that you've done that already, or there's a big window where there's nothing else to do. In this game, it feels like there will still be content, because there's some stuff that will be reactionary. You know, if an event happens in the world, that's not something you can pre-plan for raiding or whatnot, which is a big thing. The end game content at the moment could also be you going to level another node.
All right.
Because some nodes require materials for, like, you might need materials to make a new armor set that are in a different zone, but you need to get that to a metropolis or a city to be able to get that material. It's still an end game task.
Let me throw something your way, and this is something where I want to know your opinion. All right, everybody's gonna have the main character. Everybody's gonna be like, I'm gonna be a warlock. Mjolnir is gonna be, I guess, a rogue, something like that, I would assume. Necro,
Master race.
Necro is going to be a summoner. So everybody's gonna have their main class, and we're gonna get locked down on one node, and yada yada yada. Do you think, because the world is changing and not every server is going to be the same, do you think people will actually do more alt leveling and level up other characters on other servers to see what else is out there? Do you think, compared to like other MMORPGs, that there is a higher or better reason for people to level up alts? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I guess I can kind of reflect with that. For a while, I did it for multiple servers. So, there was my PvP server, which I played on Tychondrius, which that server was based out of San Diego, where I live. So my ping was phenomenal, always. But then I made, a character on Darkspear, a couple other, PvP servers like Illidan and stuff like that. And I did it basically just to be competitive, because right when Burning Crusade came out and arenas were implemented into the game, I took them super serious, right?
Yeah.
And not to disclose who I was previously, but I took PvP very, very seriously. And I kind of like the idea of being able to play with a different community, especially if the community you were in was kind of toxic. You could move to a different community and not have to play with those players until they made cross server, and that ruined it for me. But then I even look at BDO as a game. Like, I played on the NA server, and I was on Eden. But then Orwin had their own community. Uno had their own community. But then there was EU as well. And I can shout out to Death's Proxies. His guild grind in EU, before they fell apart, was absolutely phenomenal. So I bought an EU account, leveled a character, got to plus 15, and I practiced with a lot of those guys before Awakenings came out, and I played a tamer in the beginning of the game.
Yeah,
so it was a big idea, or it was a big deal to me to be able to branch out to these other communities to get the best competitive play I could.
All right. Okay, what do you think? Do you think people will play more alts to see what else is out there on other servers and in the world and be part of other communities just besides their main one?
That's a question that's hard to answer without knowing what the end game has in store for people. The end game could be so jam-packed full of stuff that you don't get time to level an alt, or that it would be punishing to have an alt.
All right.
But in that same context, I'm the kind of person that I will get to max level quicker than anyone else and do what I can. But then when there's that cutoff limit of, well, you can't do anything else till everyone else catches up, that's where I'll level an alt. And with that, it also depends on if you are in the same server or a different server, what the requirements are for your guild. Some people will level the alt because it's a need for their guild.
Okay.
They don't have a bard or something like that.
One other thing that I could maybe add to that is, depending on how crafting situations work and how nodes work for resources and stuff, it might be viable to make that alt, level it to whatever level that you need to get the highest resource from that node. And that could be, this character that you strictly gather on, or this could be the character that you strictly make armor, weapons. But we don't know yet, you know what I mean? So recipes might need a certain level to craft and stuff like that. So, while I've always played one character on one server and I've only had my one main, maybe it might be more dynamic than, previous games. And it's a better idea to have these other characters that are leveled to this specific level to be able to craft a specific item.
I mean, for me personally, because this is something Steven said. He wants like politics, spies, and all that stuff. Like me personally, I am going to level up my main, but I'm also gonna to level up twinks and alts for crafting. But I'm also gonna try to get them to join other communities and just like gather information that way. I know that it's an asshole move, but I'm like really looking forward to that part.
In the same context too, you can double down on all the questions we've talked about in that same way by removing the fast travel and the instant gratification system and pushing in more things to do at end game with questing and things like that. That limits how much you're going to want to make an alt. Like you will have so much stuff to do that you won't be instantly in the dungeon, instantly back, and like that's where the leveling becomes shorter. That travel time would make a big difference in just you getting to the next level quicker.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And with questing too, I'm hoping that they will do something like this, but I miss the old style WoW quests that were the class quest. They send you out on a mission to get a certain spell.
Yeah.
Or just a way to level that or hone your skill. Because what it used to do was it used to teach the class to play that specific spell or that way of playing.
Yeah.
And that's what was missing from some games. When you can instantly get to almost max level and you don't know how to play the character, it's a grinding halt when you get into dungeons and you don't know what you're doing.
When you can buy a character boost to like fucking 30 levels away from max, like, oh my god.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, well, I guess we have to wait and see. All right, let's jump to the next topic. And Mjolnir, I'm sorry, you're gonna hate that topic. PvE events. If you could create any PvE event, what would it be? And let's start with Oki's first.
Well, I'm hoping that some of these tie hand in hand into what Mjolnir will like, but some of the ideas of a PvE spy mission or an invading force, in terms of if you don't have like someone to compete with you in the world, I'm hoping that the PvE events will be a troll army or something in the zone that would come and attack you, that you can then also have evolve into a PvP war if you have to cross through a different area to go fight these trolls.
All right.
It's the pushing people to run into other people, which is what can cause the conflict, which is where the PvP will naturally evolve. that I like in the PvP questing system.
All right.
And then to bounce off of that, any PvE event that can jump towards, like, let's say it's on a specific node, right? And it's for capture, right? So all these guilds are being competitive to try and capture it, but they're there strictly for that objective. That's where players like me would come in and ruin the people that aren't in your guild's day by flagging or going red, as most people see, and kind of inhibit the ability of them to capture whatever's in that node. I don't hate PvE as a whole. I hate when PvE is stale, right? When it's the same rehash of the same thing over and over. You know what I mean? So if it's a world event for PvE that has the possibility of it turning into something bigger, like a guild war or something,
yeah,
I'm all for it. But if it's gonna be something like go kill 30 of these, go talk to this guy, go over here, like, that just doesn't seem fun to me. You know what I mean? Like, I like killing stuff, don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
like, that doesn't seem fun. But if it makes it a competitive nature to capture or, get that objective done first, because you get a certain reward or a certain recipe, this, that, and the other, believe me, I'll be there.
When like the way this always works is I go on the forums, I go on the Discord, I look through the forums, what are people talking about, and I ask on the Discord, what do people want to hear discussions about? And when this came up, I had a nice conversation with another community member, and we came up with this crazy idea that is way over the top, but would satisfy, I think, Mjolnir as a PvP player and myself as a PvE player. All right, so we know that there are different scales of events in the world. Big ones, small ones, depending on what your node does. What if, and this is a big ass what if a node does something, I don't know, digs too deep, I don't know, summons something, I don't know. the cause, like, why it's happening, everybody can make up their own mind. But anyways, the whole node gets attacked or is befallen by some disease, right? And this disease is literally turning everybody in an NPC model, like, how the monster coins work, and you turn into a monster. In this case, everybody gets forced because somebody, I don't know, opened the Pandora's box. All right, so now this whole node, everybody in this node has an objective to spread their disease to other people.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So now here's where it gets interesting, because we were talking about sieges and how siege mechanics are only happening during sieges, and you're only gonna use siege weapons during sieges. So what if now you have, in like almost literally, in like literary terms speaking, you have an PvE event because they've been turned into NPCs and they have control to some degree, yada yada yada. Now you have a PvE event where you can use siege mechanics, where you can use siege weapons, and you have to do something in the center of the city, and it's a PvE zone, yada yada yada. And I thought that would be awesome if you can actually, and we talked about this, I think I talked about this on other podcasts and this show as well. Like, normally events in the world in any other game are even the big ones, they don't really have a server-wide effect. What if we really get an event like this where you combine PvP and PvE in that manner? Mjolnir, would you like that? Because in general, it's still, to some degree, it's still PvP, maybe with the handicap for those guys who got turned into, I don't know, zombies. Let's call them zombies.
It would be cool to see, siege weapons being used for an alternate, reason other than a guild war or storming a castle or whatever. But at the same time, I think it would pull more players like me out who would want to just completely sabotage that entire thing just for the meme, right?
Yeah.
I can see that would be fun. It'd be something interesting to see. Like I said, if I can inhibit the way that somebody's playing for, however long I'm alive, or give a certain group of people an advantage over the next to win whatever is coming out of that node, right? Because there has to be some sort of reward for a PvE event, right?
Yeah, whatever. Golden sandal.
Like I said, anything. Yes, the golden sandal, dude. Oh, oh god. If it would definitely pull people like me out, and it would make it a little bit more interesting. And I like starting fights. I'm gonna be honest. I like starting fights in game because I don't know. I don't really do much talking in game, but I piss people off enough to make them start fighting me. So I guess that works.
Alright.
But I can see how that would be cool. Like I said, using siege weapons for an alternate source sounds pretty rad.
Well, we had the discussion about if you're in a zone and you don't get sieged because your area is not as active, like you're in a different whole part of the continent to everyone else in the game. Your guild's gone completely south compared to everyone else. The idea we had was that another group, like I said, the trolls or whatever, would actually siege your town because no players were down there. It's a good way to promote if someone's inactive in a town, that could spawn the attack to then de-level the node.
Also, if we look at, I don't know if you guys played Guild Wars 2.
Yes.
I'm gonna hope that you did. Okay.
Yeah.
You should remember what the Silver Wastes are then. And
Yes.
Silver Waste was the huge map that people used to just make money, right? And it was nothing but PvE events. Oh, I just hit my mic. Nothing but PvE events. And unfortunately, in that game, you can't flag up, right? The only PvP you get is when you queue for it, which is shitty. Just like WoW. Unless, because open world isn't a thing, and it makes me very sad. Make open world PvP great again. But I guess it would be kind of cool to see. I'm stuck at the faction thing, right? Like this faction versus this faction.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm always going to be stuck on that. But if we look at something like the Silver Waste, if there was a way for players to make a lot of money or advance themselves with like their crafting or whatever through doing those PvE events on that node, I would want that node to still be a part of the, it shouldn't be this circle that everybody runs into, and that circle's safe from, anything other than that PvE event, if that makes sense.
I gotcha.
I would still want it to be a complete, the same part of the world as it was before, but just with an event going on. Because maybe that node follows into a quest line, right? And these newer players or lower level players come into that node while the PvE event comes in, and I don't know if it would yield experience or not, but they can still take part, right?
Yeah, I gotcha. It would be
Well, you can
interesting.
always add XP depending on the participation of the person.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of the other events we were thinking about too, with the example of having it breed into a PvP event, we were talking about a specific node you're in or your city requiring materials not in your zone, so it would push players out into the world. And they could get it many different ways. They could kill mobs and get a small portion of that gold or silver. It could also be transported in a caravan, and it could point you to that caravan when the caravan leaves for the travel to another city. And like just those kind of things, or just going into the world and mining it yourself if you have the profession and you can do it. Then that's player choice. Then, if you don't want to PvP, you can go do it your own way. But if you want to PvP, that caravan's there to attack.
Yeah, boy.
I mean, it would be really awesome to see stuff like this. I'm honestly, like I could think of events like all day, like PvP and PvE wise. And at the end is just like, can they do it? Like, can they actually find a way to put this stuff into the game and make it work?
I think they have a lot on their plate.
Yeah.
A lot on their plate because there's a lot of expectations from the community. And some expectations people need to realize are kind of unfeasible, especially at the beginning of a game.
Yes.
And nothing's saying that it won't happen. Nothing's saying that it won't happen a couple months from now. Maybe they'll get this stray hair that'll tell them, hey, I really want to do this in game, right? And they start doing events. They start, making the events or scaling the events previously. That way they can just implement it into the game.
Yeah.
But it'd be rad that if all this stuff was added, but we also need to understand that the game is still so far away. And these are just great ideas that I'm sure we can pitch to any one of them, and they could have their own discussion, right?
Steven is actually watching the show.
Oh, hi, Steven.
Hello.
Hi, Steven. I like your sandals.
So yeah, we want credit. We want credit if this actually ends up being in the game. We want definitely credit for this.
No, and then if it does get added to the game, we can send more pizzas and donuts down to the headquarters, and we can meet them down there. It's cool,
Yeah. All right. Let's jump to the next topic. Has to do with PvE content. Sorry, Mjolnir. And also endgame, which is the raid issue. When I say raid issue, I mean that a lot of people these days, they don't find PvE content challenging because as soon as they hit max level, they do, I don't know, let's say World of Warcraft, they do the raids and they're easily accessible, you get your stuff, but there is no real reason to do them on a harder scale.
You're triggering me.
Yeah, I am.
Know that.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, it's just like because of Raid Finder and Dungeon Finder. Like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, because raiding for me, like I also love PvP. Like it's like one of my favorite things. But I also always loved raiding, especially from classic World of Warcraft till like Wrath of the Lich King. Like I lived and died for raiding. My problem is, and this is like one of my concerns. This is one of the reasons also I took back my Kickstarter pledge, because this is one of the pillars where we don't know anything about. And I gotta make a statement now, and I want your guys' opinion on this. PvE content, as soon as you hit max level in most games, isn't really challenging. That's why a lot of game designers, they focus, especially in the Korean market, they focus on PvP because that's easier to design and that's easier to manage. I know this sounds crazy, but it is kind of true if you look at the trends that came out the last couple years. And I think the reason for this is that nobody really wants to design PvE content where people can really run against the wall because it's that hard. So if Intrepid would honestly design a raid system, if it's 20 man, 40 man, yada, 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 where you literally run against the wall and you need weeks and weeks to kill a boss. For example, like in World of Warcraft Vanilla, when the first Naxxramas raid came out,
yes,
only 23 guilds worldwide cleared that raid. After that, like Burning Crusade, it went up to the thousands of guilds clearing that raid. I know it has to do with also the increase of player base, but still, that raid for me personally, because of the level of mechanics and the raid size, is still my number one favorite raid. So when I say that I would like to see something like that in Ashes of Creation, where you honestly have a raid with 40-man people, and if you don't put your heads together, if you don't optimize everything you do, you're not gonna clear it. A lot of people, they're gonna be like, yeah, I want to clear this raid, I want to finish this, yeah, and they're gonna complain about it. Do you think if they put something like this in the game, they should just say, you know what, if you cannot clear this raid, go crafting? What's your opinion on this, Necro?
Well, yeah, this is where I play the devil a little bit here, because I'm the kind of person that will say to everyone who, when it comes to complaining and doing things like this, to take your complaint and put it in your pocket for a while, because the instant gratification, people won't like how this goes. I like the old way where it took months because you had to gear up for the raid. It was dungeon doing, like searching for a specific item for gear, getting attuned in certain games.
Yes.
And that was a window where if you weren't attuned, you couldn't get in, and that's where many guilds didn't go do those things.
Yes,
and
yes.
that hitting a wall too when you get in, which was a player check, which we used to make the joke in our guild that we're wearing them down week by week, making the boss tighter by dying to his feet. It's that game that like would bring people together. They have to work better. They have to communicate better, and that's where you do breed that sense of that's how a guild master or a raid leader becomes themselves. In other games, it's you don't even have to pay attention. I've been in games where I'm raiding and I'm watching a movie on the other screen, and to me, that's not playing the game. That's being there in a theater event where you're just playing along with it.
Yeah, and to bounce off of that, me as a PvP player, the reason I stuck with PvP so well, one, there's always content. Yeah. Two, you could pick out the good players, right? It was real easy to find them. But three, PvE, like he said, I would throw up, a couple YouTube videos and let them play, and I would not even, notice what I'm doing in game anymore because it's not old school Nax. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not old school WoW at all because old school WoW is hard, and that's why people complain. And
like
it goes back to your just silver spooning all these players that
just want
they want things hard, but they don't want to work for it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
The worry that I have is because honestly I want this. I want for myself I want a raid where I have to fight a boss for a month before I actually get to like kill him. Like that's what I want. That's like fuck, give me that and I'm happy. The thing that worries me, and this is from like somebody who also worked in the industry perspective and who works in marketing. Like we said, nowadays the core focus group of MMORPGs are people they don't want to work for stuff. And what I want to know is how Intrepid is gonna address that. Because are they gonna go and turn around and be like, this is the raid, if you can't beat it, do something else? Or are they gonna be like, you know what, we're gonna have different tiers and all that, all that stuff that World of Warcraft did to, to allow people to access the raid and to clear the raid on different difficulties. I want the game to be a success, but at the same time, I want that PvE content that is gonna be the wall that breaks or makes some players, because that hasn't been done in ages.
Right. But I can agree with that.
So I'm gonna be really. It's gonna be interesting to see how they're gonna do it, because on the one side, I think Oki agrees on that. Is we want that hard stuff, but on the other side, we also want the game to succeed. And if you make little girls cry, they're not gonna pay anymore for the game.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part. It's like I don't like my generation. Okay. It makes me sad. But to bounce off of that and, making things hard, it has to be in a game. You know what I mean? It has to be there because players that take it serious and they want to be a huge part of the community and they want to, make all these guides and raid mechanic guides and this, that, and the other, kind of like how the game was before Deadly Boss mods came out for a while, right? People made all these guides for patchwork, especially patchwork, and that was huge because these world first guilds would get that raid boss down and they'd start working on that raid tier, and out came guides like stand here, don't stand here, watch out for the green slime because that'll cut your health by 75%, and then you're wrecked for the rest of the fight. Stuff like that was important, but at the same time, if you really didn't do it, there was also stuff for you to do, right? Because we know as a collective that the Ashes team enjoys PvE, especially Steven. You know what I mean? Like, PvE was Steven's forte. That's what he enjoyed. I don't know how much PvP he did, but I know that, talking to Belle, she did a lot of PvP. But it has to be hard for those players that want to be competitive, but it has to have enough content on the adverse side of it to where those players that don't want to raid or those players that don't want to be as serious can still enjoy the same content.
Yeah, but I honestly I really don't like the one raid different like difficulties. I never liked that system. I really never freaking did. I think that's just something personal. But all right,
in that context, though, like I know this is where Minu will like me for this. I was a high warlord in WoW, like the higher tier
Hey,
of
shout out.
PvP. The grind of doing that stuff and the reward at the end of it was what used to be the good thing. In raiding and stuff like that, and doing a zone content like a world boss or something like that, it is the achievement of doing it that's the important thing. But also, if you put the roadblock there that takes a couple of days or a week or a month to do, that's good because it challenges the player. They have something to look forward to. Once they beat that boss, though, especially with the instant gratification, want more all the time thing, that's where they start begging for content, and you start having a rush cycle where it's got to be a quicker product because it's something they want now. That also depends how the world will evolve. If 6 months down the track, what's the next raid boss? Does it just evolve and become the next thing, or is it something we're going to have added to the game later? Is it reactionary to what we do in the world?
I think it should be, personally. I don't think raids should just be dropped into the game for the simple fact that we need more content. I think that because of all this node management and how hard we're going to have to work to make the world, advance, I think that should take part in some of the raids, at least for, getting it there. Like we look at old school, or we look at classic WoW, we look at Silithus, right? The opening of AQ game.
The server killer.
Scarab, you look at Scarab Lord, the title, on any character in the game nowadays, and you're like, holy shit, that guy's a god, right?
Yeah.
Because he did that grind. Those people that have the battle tank from being the first people, to open the gate and hit the gong with the hammer, like, that those people are legit because they grinded that out, right?
And I mean, that's what I want to see personally. Like, I honestly, here's the thing, I don't need everything at once. Let me work for something, because then I gotta be like, because for those who played in vanilla till now, everybody remembers this. This is like an unwritten law. Everybody remembers the first raid boss, the first hard raid boss they killed. Everybody remembers this. Like, I still, like, one of my highlights is when we killed Arthur's heroic. Our TeamSpeak, yes, back in the day we used TeamSpeak. I'm getting old, I know, I'm sorry. Like,
you better have not used Sarah Night bombs.
Dude,
if you did, you're a cheater.
Exploded. Our TeamSpeak exploded the second we killed that guy. So, I just, like, honestly, they should just hire me and let me make raids that make people cry, and everything is gonna be happy. All right.
Then I want an internship. Let me do PvP things.
Okay, you got anything to add? If not, we're gonna jump to the last topic for today.
With that too, especially with the raiding and the way that they might be doing the game end game content, that also builds character for people. Yeah. We know that a lot of people nowadays, they explain that I know people who have gone on to get jobs and they've used the services and the skills they learned in game for micromanaging people, working out their pros and cons, and those kind of things that transfer into the real world. True. It's that building of confidence and the learning to be the raid leader, learning to micromanage people who really need to have their hand held sometimes, or just told to stop playing the game.
I'll do that for
players, those players grow into the raid leaders that they should be, and that's something that you don't just get when someone logs in instant gratification, and
exactly
that stuff is missing from a game where there's no direction. You don't have to be told how to kill a boss if you just mindlessly kill it.
All right, let's jump to the last topic because we're already running a little bit late, and I know, Oki, for you it's really early, so I do want to get you back to bed. Alright, topic number 7. The last live stream. Oki, you did an awesome job. You wrote an entire AOC stream recap, which I really do appreciate that you shared that with me. So I want to know, what is like the one thing you want to talk about from the last live stream? Mjolnir, anything you want to talk about?
I think you should bounce us off Okies first, and then
All right.
I really have to think about it. Yeah, I mean,
All right. Okay. Go for it.
Or my main thing was I'm glad that we've heard some more feedback on the classes we kept getting asked about with some of us in the Discord. Just knowing the sort of rounded way they're going to do the characters with the bard and the summoner is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that they actually explained what the summoner is going to be and what the bard is going to be.
They said enough to allude so you still have questions, but enough so that we at least have something to satisfy us until we see more, which is nice.
True. All right. Anything you want to talk about, Nonya? And if not, I'm gonna go with something, and that's probably gonna take us a couple of minutes to talk about it.
I'm weird. Okay, so when they say that all classes can use all weapons or a certain amount of weapons, I'm stuck with old school. This was your weapon set. I mean, even a couple, kind of like Guild Wars. You know what I mean? So I guess I'm gonna have to get used to it. But then I kind of find it a little bit more dynamic because obviously spells are gonna change with the weapon that you have on, right? Or maybe they're gonna adapt differently to the weapon that you're using. So when they said how many weapons and can each class use them, I thought that was kind of cool that there's so many weapons for every class to use, not just like a designated weapon set. But at the same time, I want to I'm going to be that person to find the most optimized weapon for me because it's just playstyle. But I think it's kind of rad that all these classes get to have all of the weapons. So just one.
There was something on that. I'm pretty sure they answered saying that some spells or abilities will require a key weapon. So, like, tanks will need their shield to do some of their abilities. So there's still going to be a reliance on needing that specific type of weapon in that way.
You do have a really good statement in the chat there, BCG.
Yeah. The one from Volgalov?
Volga. Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, let's finish what we just talked about, and then we can actually jump to chat questions. Are we done? Are you guys done?
Yeah. What about you though? What did you enjoy the most from this stream?
Honestly, I did enjoy the entire stream. There is something that actually got me worried, which was around 50 minutes into the stream where Steven said that he might lift the NDA from the Alpha 0. And I'm not a big fan of that. And I know Steven is watching, and Steven, I love you. I love the game and everything. And I pretty much sold my soul to this game. So yeah, that whole maybe lifting the Alpha, the NDA from the Alpha 0, I honestly, I cannot get behind that, not one bit. I honestly think it's. I have to think right now. I don't want to fucking break my NDA.
It's okay.
I feel you.
I can sort of say with that too, though, with the joke we had on the Discord yesterday. Enough people are accidentally talking about things now that they might as well lift some of it.
Well,
because people who are talking in the Discord, they forget. Like I've had people in the chatting with me, and I've had to quickly correct them because they forget they're not in the alpha channel.
Yeah. let me put it this way. Based on the Alpha 0 live stream with Steven, based on that gameplay, I would say that it's still way too early to allow public access to the product. In this case, the product is Ashes, because just as an example, Crowfall. A lot of people say Crowfall is shit, yada yada yada. My personal opinion, Crowfall is actually a solid game. The combat is really fun. The core mechanics of the game are fun. They have small issues. Everybody has small issues. Ash is gonna have small issues. The problem that Crowfall did is they allowed open access during open play game sessions, game tests, and the game wasn't optimized. The game was horrible, and that just spread by mouth and ear or whatever. How I don't know how that saying goes again. That Crowfall is a bad game, and from a marketing perspective, I know that some YouTubers, influencers are gonna jump on the chance to badmouth the assets of creation based on you know where I'm getting with this, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it wrong for me to worry?
Because no, and I personally agree the same thing, and I'm gonna trigger some people, and I'm sorry, guys.
Go for it.
I don't think that the NDA should be lifted unless we get to beta and it's open beta.
Yeah.
And unless everybody can see what the content is and it's beta season, I don't think it should be opened, because you have these designated people there for a reason. These designated people have done a great job, and they've reported, whatever they need to, because that's their job. If being an alpha tester, they are there to help the team with whatever, right?
Yes.
So I don't personally think, based on A0, that it should be lifted on the basis that people will get the information soon enough, right? We're waiting. We have a lot more time to wait. So what's a little bit longer, right?
I mean, and I talked about this yesterday in quite the length with other people, and the only people that I hear that want the Alpha Zero lifted are people that want to stream the game. And at that point, because I'm a streamer myself, like I do YouTube crap, I do my own personal stream, I do this, so I can consider myself a content creator. I'm not gonna say I'm the next PewDiePie. Hell no, I'm like the opposite of PewDiePie.
I'm the next Death Proxy.
Yeah, there you go. But the point that I want to make is that those people that want the NDA lifted right now, they only think about, oh yeah, I'm gonna stream Black Desert. I'm gonna stream Black Desert Online. No, I'm gonna stream Ashes of Creation, and it's good for my content and yada yada. And at this point, I'm like, are you really that selfish? Without, like, can you not like think this through? Like, okay, you've been around in the gaming industry longer than I have. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I do admit though, there was a bit where a lot of us were talking about it, and people brought up some very valid points that the NDA in the way should be lifted on those who could be trusted. There are content creators and people that I know Stephen would give the thumbs up to who could stream because they go and they check their facts. They can answer the questions that are asked to them. They can't just give it to everyone freely and just have a free-for-all of anyone who has alpha access is going to be on the stream.
Yeah.
It then dilutes how many people are focused on the one channel. And then it becomes a race of who can log on first to get the most players saying, I'm going to exclusively stream the alpha.
So I do like that idea. Not because I might be chosen by this, but I would actually, if they lift the NDA, if they say, yes, we are going to lift the NDA for a certain group of people, right? Then I would honestly prefer people that I know like everything about the game, which is like, I don't know, Death Proxy, Saramonin, Agelos, I don't Oki I don't care, Oki knows a lot. Everybody that knows the game and has a positive perspective when it comes to the game. Because I can guarantee this, that if you open up the Alpha Zero to the public, and by the public I mean everybody who has Alpha Zero access, you're going to get some YouTubers saying the game is finished, this is what the finished product looks, and it's shit, just to get some extra views. And then you're gonna start, then the shitstorm is gonna start rolling in. So I honestly, if Steven watches this, Steven, please, if you want, I buy another 2 $500 packs. Just don't lift it for everybody, please.
If you do that, you open yourself for like people like what should I call him?
I think I already know who you're talking about.
He who shall not be named. Okay, if we open this, right, that leads for especially people with huge followings. For I could go on about it, but those people with the followings that already have a negative aspect or outlook on everything that comes out, because people are pissed off at the MMO genre. We know this, right? If we lift it and we allow creators who haven't been with the community to come in and make content on the game, it leads to those people who have this massive following to completely tank the game, and everybody who follows them gives them the wrongful perspective, right? And if they're handed the wrongful perspective, I mean, from meeting the entire Intrepid team, you know what I mean, they're an incredible group of people, you know what I mean? Every single one of them was not only the nicest, you know, group of creators that I've personally met, but it's not just a game to them, you know what I mean? It's an absolute passion. And that's the best part for me is they're going to build this game and then they're going to have the time of their life playing it. You know what I mean? And that's what's exciting. So I don't want to see a content creator who has 400,000 subscribers on YouTube come in and completely tank the thing that they're so passionate about, because that would, one, piss me off because you haven't been with the community to say much. You haven't been around to know what's going on with the community. But two, you're taken away from their passion. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, Sarah Monen makes also a good point, saying that opening up the NDA for just specific creators could also end up in other content creators creating negative content. So yeah, it's I honestly at this point I don't see it being a win no matter what you do. Like the only thing I think you should do is not lift the NDA till Alpha 1 or till the game is like presentable in a way that is actually that has a positive light on it.
Beta.
To double down on that too, though, we're in such an early phase that the reason a lot of guilds companies do the NDAs like this is because there could be a huge flux in what they do. It could go completely backwards and they could change something that no one likes changed.
Yeah.
But it has to be changed because it's broken the game.
Yeah.
And those things are why they don't bring it out to people straight away, because that's where the public says, but I wanted that in the game. Or I wanted that key way for the game to play. And those things in some games are the reason why they hide it behind the NDA. And being someone who's tested before, I've seen them pull whole classes out of games and bring them back in years later.
Right.
Just because it didn't work, it wasn't going to function. But if they told the people that who wanted it, who screamed for it for years, that it was there, they'd have to eventually buckle to the fact that so many people are like, well, I'm not playing this game if my class isn't in there, as a good example.
All right. Yeah, I guess we just have to wait and see. I mean, like, Steven is a businessman. He has people that have been in the industry for a while. I mean, they need to have somebody there that does, I don't know, market research, and they need to know what they're doing, right? Like, they do.
I think it's more Steven has faith in the community.
Yeah, no, don't.
To not be really silly. But there's always going to be that one person. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, Steven.
We have a couple who, even in the Discord, I think should just be not allowed to talk at all in the voice chats because muted all day.
Yeah,
but that's only because they don't realize that there should be a filter on what they say.
Yeah. All right, Steven, if you're watching this, I love this community. I do this podcast for the community. It's about the community. I know you have faith in the community. I do as well. We all do. Just I don't know. Don't do it, please. Pretty please. Pretty please.
Or at least if you're gonna do it, put some limitations on some things.
Yes, limitations. Limitations are always good. All right, we're way over. We are way over. Like normally we just go an hour. So while I now will give the chat, which by the way, you're all awesome, a chance to ask questions to Oki, myself, or Mjolnir. During that time, I'm gonna allow Mjolnir and Oki to plug whatever they want to plug. And so yeah, Mjolnir, why don't you go first?
All right. Well, obviously, if you're in the stream, you should know me by now. If you don't get to know me, I'm always in the Discord. You can follow me on Twitch at MjolnirTKO_, as well as my YouTube. The same thing. I'm gonna be making content for Ashes. As well as shout out to Mutiny. Both me and Okies are from the community Mutiny, so thank you for having me. I had a fun time, and let's make MMOs great again.
All right, Oki, your turn.
I actually don't have much to pitch because I'm sort of the guy that sits in the shadows when it comes to these things. I'm on the Discord a lot, so if anyone needs to ever speak to me or ask questions, come and speak to me. I do Theorycraft a lot. So I always have to put that disclaimer out there that not everything you hear when you come in the channel is fact. Some people tend to make that mistake.
All right. Yeah. So anybody, I can actually second this. Oki knows a lot about the gaming industry. It's always fun to talk to him because he knows more than I do, and I thought I know a lot because I spend way too much time studying the gaming industry at school. Okay. So apparently, like I think we answered every question there is because nobody has a question. We got one question. When is my birthday? My birthday is next Thursday. It's on the 25th of January. I'm turning 30 on Thursday. I'm turning 30 on Thursday.
I do think that we should answer Volga's question from earlier.
Yeah, right. Where's it?
And she or he, I don't want to assume here, 2018, asked how Intrepid would have handled people who can't complete a dungeon earlier. What are our thoughts on dungeons having easy, normal, and hard mode levels?
I don't like it. I think I said it earlier as well, that I don't like different difficulties on dungeons. What do you think, Morgan?
I see. This is me again, being the PvP player. If I get an advantage from doing a dungeon that drops a certain trinket, weapon, whatever, if that drops from a hard mode, like kind of how you have the mythic keys for dungeons in WoW now, if I can get something out of it, sure, that I can use in PvP. Otherwise, I want the content to come. I mean, dungeons are dungeons, right? We're going to do that to get ready for raid. So raid should have all of the difficulties. Dungeons should be the prerequisite to get ready for those raids.
Yes, I do agree that there are some things too. Like in some games, the mechanic will be there so that if you can't defeat the boss within a certain amount of months when everyone else has, they usually tune down the boss a little bit to make it a bit easier for the people who were just dying on that last 2% of a boss. Just to give them that little lift up. I don't mind those things, but when you start adding a hard, a lazy, a difficult, or that's where you start getting the casual mode. That's where like WoW went back the other way, and a lot of people I know left the game, like whole guilds, because it felt like it was just a theme park at that point. You want to have it so it's the challenge of not being able to do a mechanic or doing a thing is to go learn to do the mechanic, to go practice the mechanic somewhere else. I'm hoping that Stephen and the team will know that one of the best things you can do with a mechanic is put the mechanic in the game in multiple places, so it's not just on that boss.
I want to counter that statement. I want to counter that argument because, I have logic on my side. Oh
boy.
All right. So we know that you can get the best gear through crafting and through, raiding, right? And so why would you, in Ashes, this is just for Ashes, not other games, why would you nerf a dungeon or a boss that gives you stuff that you can craft as well? I mean, if you fight in PvP, this is right down Mjolnir's road, if you fight the same guy in PvP over and over again, and he kicks your ass over and over again, you're gonna ask the devs, hey, can you nerf that guy? Right? So
nope, can't nerf a player. So
yeah, that's the gratification coming through there. That's what I was saying. That it's the idea of like people need to put that emotion in their pocket and start focusing on how like that works. Most games players who come out on top, they see a challenge and they go and they find a way to beat that person who just beat them because they're a better player.
Yeah.
Not I want to be better because you can boost my numbers. Right. Because those things are it sounds silly to some people, but that's a indirect way of doing a almost pay to win thing where it's who can complain the most will win.
Yeah.
And it's that thing that you have it in other games too. I think Guild Wars did it where a specific class come out and people complain so much till they nerf the class. But a lot of the thing was that it wasn't the class, it was the players who knew what they were doing.
Yeah, so I mean, don't make PvE content like easy. We have enough games like that, right?
But when I say easy, when I said like lowering a stat or lowering the way it was so they can beat that last
Or
2%.
multiplier and stuff. Right.
Yeah, those things are more. This is talking in the weeks to months after like every other guild has done it,
Yeah,
and
okay.
we're getting into another bit of content. So
Yeah.
like if it's not the focus of that raid anymore, it might be that the item you get is still good, like the enchantment. If you can break down the item, if that item still is worth and the raid is still important, no, don't nerf it. Keep it as it is. You need to challenge people to better themselves, not bow to the people all the time.
Yeah.
That becomes a slippery slope where once it happens once or twice, it slowly becomes everything in the game that will have to be tuned to the player who just doesn't want to do it. Not just the player who can't do it, the player who just doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I agree on that part. All right, so we're gonna leave on that note. We've been going way over the normal time that we go. So
time flies when you're having fun, man.
Oh hell yeah! So I want to thank Oki and Mjolnir again for joining me. Thanks, guys. I hope you guys had fun.
Thank you for having
Thank you for having us. Yeah, thank you for having us here.
I want to thank all the 43 people that watched us across several platforms for joining us. Thank you very much.
You guys are awesome.
I hope you guys had fun.
Always like to thank the community, and Stephen, please don't ban us all.
Yeah, please don't ban us. We love you. Stephen, love you.
And Stephen, thank you for what you're doing.
Yes.
Thank the team, and keep pushing forward. We know it's going to be a pretty rough road because there's a lot still to do, but we know we have faith. So
yeah, we have faith in you. Don't bend your will to others because they want you to change.
Hell yeah! All right, guys, take care, and I see everybody on the Discord.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.